I'm sure he will eventually.
So as we spoke, we're going to start the introduction. Before the story, we'll have a nigun in honor of the Eve of Yom Kippur, and to ask of Hashem, together with all of us participating, Avinu Malkeinu, you should send us Moshiach Tzidkenu, the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach, immediately now. Yechi Adoneinu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMoshiach Li'olam Voed. Tiya mama da mama mama la da mama mama la da mama mama la da. We don't hear everyone singing, at least the men. Hey, la da, my No, that's for the nigun of this year. We'll have many more nigunim. Be'ezus Hashem. Oh, wow. Round of applause. Rev Yaakov, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We'll make a l'chaim before the story. Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam beirei pri hagofen. My wife is cooking up, steaming in the kitchen. She wishes to remind everyone of the custom that the eve of Yom Kippur, we eat kreplach. That's a story in itself. Once the eve of Yom Kippur in the Rebbe's home, the person that was working in the Rebbe's home that was supposed to be taking care of things. For somehow they forgot kreplach. They didn't prepare it. It wasn't delivered. I don't know. But, he was feeling terrible. And the Rebbe went like this with his hand and he said, don't worry. The Rebbe took a piece of challah and he took a piece of meat or chicken. I don't know what it was. He wrapped it inside the challah and he ate. And he said, what is kreplach? The kreplach it's just that it's covering the meat. So this is dough that's covering the meat. That's kreplach. So whether a person has kreplach or you make the types of kreplach that you can make, this is something that you can choose. But the main thing is that we should have kreplach because we're told that this is one of the holidays that the mazel, the fortune of Yisrael is hidden, it's concealed, and it's hidden and concealed until after Yom Kippur, until after Ne'ilah, until after the one blow of the shofar, Motzei Yom Kippur, the end of Yom Kippur, when we are finally revealed the Gmar Simateva Lashon Teva Sukkah, the seal, the good seal for a good and sweet year. But the story that we're going to be telling is going back a few hundred years. And like we said, the Rebbe himself told this story over. The Rebbe told this story in Farbrengen. And it's interesting, the Rebbe was talking about his Malamed, about the when he was in Cheder, and he said that the Malandim, when they come to the portion of Ha'azinu, the song, it's actually not only a portion, but it's a song. So there's not much that really is available to teach the children, because it's the contents of the song of Ha'azinu is very challenging. It's difficult, and in order to go and to catch the attention of the children, so the Rebbe says that his Melamed told the following story, which is interconnected directly with the portion of Ha'azinu. And it's interesting because when we're talking about any portion in the Torah, they're usually very long portions. But these portions, for instance, Vayelach was just something like 31 verses, and we have Ha'azinu now, which is a little longer, but it's also one of the most shortest portions in the Torah. It's 52 psukim, 52 verses. And the story is going back to the times of the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachmanides in English. And it's told that Nachmanides, the Ramban taught, one second, I'm going to mute everyone, just so that there won't be a background voice. The Ramban taught in his hall of study to his students that in regard to the portion of Ha'azinu, the entire history of the creation, and we mean literally the entire history of the creation, from the beginning of creation, Bereshis bara Elokim, in the beginning Hashem created, until further notice, in other words, until Mashiach comes, and after Mashiach comes, it's all may be found in the one portion of Ha'azinu. We're not talking about the entire 5 books of the Chumash, of the Torah. One portion and one of the most shortest of portions. All the students were very excited from this idea, besides one. There was one student that not only was he not excited, but he felt that this is like a put down. For him to be able to believe that the entire creation, the entire history of the creation is locked and may be found in one portion, and in one of the most shortest of portions, the portion of Ha'azinu, was for him totally a fantasy. And therefore, he acted upon his understanding, and this literally caused him to leave the study hall of Nachmanides, of the Ramban, and to unfortunately also leave the fold of Judaism, at least as his practice of Yiddishkeit of Judaism. He went to live the life of a poritz, of a land baron. He went and he took a partner in life who was not Jewish. He had children from her. He partied as the custom of the land barons. And that's the way he continued his life. One year, he went and he summoned the Ramban, Nachmanides. Why did he summon him? It was in the midst of Yom Kippur, the midst of the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. He summoned him to come to his mansion. And at the beginning, Nachmanides didn't want to come. And he told his servants to tell Nachmanides that if he doesn't come, he's going to organize the most terrible pogrom that his area ever saw in regard to the Jewish nation. He didn't know what's involved, but definitely it's not going to be on the account of even one Jew, how much more so when we're talking about the entire congregation. He went to this person's mansion in the midst of the holiest day, Yom Kippur. And what does he see there? He sees something that caused him to be in shock. He saw that his student, his previous student at least, he kindled a fire in front of him, and upon this fire, he started a roast, and he was roasting a dover acher, that very low animal that goes oink oink, and when it was roasted, he took a nice big pulka, and he started to eat it in front of the Ramban. Like we said, this shocked Nachmanides out of his mind, and he couldn't believe his eyes. And if that wasn't enough, his student goes and looks him in the eye, and he says, in a very ridiculing manner, he says, how many averos of Kores, in other words, how many crimes was he desecrating before his eyes, that he's meant to be put to death by heaven? Nachmanides to this answered, 4. And he went and smiled and he said, no, 5. When Nachmanides saw that his student was playing games with him, so he gave him a very stern glance. He gave, the birthday boy in it himself, Rav Moshe Ber HaKohen Katz, Bruchim Habayim. He gave his student, whose name was Avner, he gave him a very stern stare and glanced at him, and he said, what exactly brought you to come to this such low, to stoop down and to come to this such a low level, to be able to go and to do everything that you have done in front of me? He says, you don't know? He says, no. He says, it was your teachings. My teaching, says Nachmanides. What teaching could have brought you to go into this type of behavior on the holiest day, Yom Kippur? He says, you gave a teaching in regard to the fact that the entire history of the world is condensed and may be found in the one parsha of Ha'azinu, which, as we mentioned before, is this week's parsha, this week's portion. And he said, Nachmanides looked at him and he said, so what's wrong with that? This gave him an even greater anger inside. And he said, what's wrong with that? You still hold by that teaching? You still feel that this is correct? He says, definitely. Torah hi nitzchis. The Torah is eternal. And therefore, everything that is taught in the Torah, including this, is true forever. So he says, you know what? In that case, I want you to find me in the portion of Ha'azinu. Find my name, find me in the portion of Ha'azinu. The Ramban obviously took this very seriously. He didn't know what would be the outcome if he wasn't able to. And he went into a corner and he prayed a silent prayer to Hashem to reveal to him what his student was asking. After a minute or two, from heaven, it was revealed exactly where the name of his student Avner was found. It's in the portion of Ha'azinu. Ha'azinu, by the way, is the chapter Lamed Beis. It's the heart. Lamed Beis is Lev, the heart of the entire book of Deuteronomy, of Devarim. And in chapter Lamed Beis, the portion of Ha'azinu, the name is found in Pasuk Chaf Vav, verse 26. And as we know, 26 is the gematria, the numerical value of Shem Havaya, the tetragrammaton, Hashem's name as it is revealed in the attribute of chesed, of kindness. What does it say over there? What is the verse? The verse states as follows: Amarti af ehem. I said I will. Hashem is speaking through Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem is saying, I said I will scatter them. In other words, Hashem is testifying to the fact that if and when the Jewish nation will not behave properly, and they will not be worthy of living in the holy land of Eretz Yisrael, Amarti afehem, Hashem comes and testifies that he will scatter the Jewish nation into the diaspora, into galut, into exile. Amarti afehem ashbita me'enesh zichram. I will cause their memory, I will cause the memory of the Jewish nation to be forgotten amongst the nations. The once so ever powerful Jewish nation, the nation that all the other nations came and brought presents and taxes and literally subjugated themselves to the Jewish nation. This nation, Hashem says, my nation, Hashem's nation, he will cause their memory to be forgotten amongst the nations. That's how intense the Golus will be. Now, if we look at each and every word, and actually not every word, but every third letter in each word, we'll come up with the following. And this is what the Ramban showed his student Avner. Omarti, the third letter in the word Omarti is Reish, Aleph Mem Reish. This is Avner's, his title. What is Avner's title? Rabbi, Rav, which we'll explain later on. But his title, Rabbi. Yeah. Amarti af ehem, Aleph Pei Aleph. The third letter Aleph is the first letter of Avner's name. Ashbita, Aleph Shin Beis, is the second letter of Avner's name. The Beis, Me'enesh, Mem Aleph Nun, is the Nun of Avner's name. Zichram, the last word in this verse, Zayin Chof, Reish. The Reish is the last letter of Avner's name. And hence, and behold, the Ramban was showing him in the Chumash. He left Judaism, the observance of Judaism, but apparently he still had a Chumash in his home, in his house. And this is a scroll. Then they had scrolls. And this is what he showed him. Reb Avner is in this pasuk and is found literally in the portion of Ha'azinu. And what does it mean? This is what Avner looked and asked his rabbi, who was previously his rabbi, what does it mean? The Ramban said, Harei shelcha lefanecha. Your portion is here, placed before you. And just that we'll understand the Ramban's statement, these words are actually not only in regard to the Jewish nation. If they don't behave properly and worthy, they will be scattered and their memory will be erased from the universe, from the nations. But this is exactly where the Ramban found his student's name. And this is the message that he was giving to the Ramban, to his student Avner, that after you have left your observance of Judaism and you have literally gone into such a non-observant and non-Jewish life, your rectification is to scatter yourself, to literally go into golus, go into exile, and have your identity forgotten from amongst the people, from amongst the nations. Avner was crying and crying, and then finally he understood what he has to do. He asked forgiveness from his rabbi, from the Ramban, because he understood that the only thing that literally caused him to leave the observance of Judaism and from being a student of the Ramban was the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. And he left his family, his non-Jewish partner and the children that he had from her, the wealth. He had unbelievable riches. He was a very, very prosperous land baron. And it's told that he went to the riverbank, to the ocean, and he got into a little dinghy, a little boat with no oars and no captain. These are literally the words that the Rebbe is quoting from. I believe it's the book Bnei Yissachar, if I'm not mistaken. That's the source of the story. And he allowed the waters of the ocean to carry him away. And it's told that the ocean literally carried him away to a different land. And there, miraculously, he was saved. He was able to get back onto the shore. And he began his life from new, with a new identity. No one knew who he was. No one was able to identify this person as the Avner, who was the previous student of the Ramban. And it's told that he literally did a complete teshuvah. And this, the Rebbe explains, is the hint in the acronym or the letters that were where we found Avner's name, where the Ramban found Avner's name, because they begin with the letter Resh, and this is the title, Rabbi Avner. Why Rabbi Avner? We said that he left the observance of Judaism because this is Al Shem Ha'osid. This is relating to the future. The future after he will go into Golus. The future after he will erase his identity and start from new. The future is that he will be returned back to becoming a great rabbi, and his tshuva will be accepted by Hashem. And this is the story, apparently, that the Rebbe's Melamed told in the Cheder, and we have, Baruch Hashem, the schus of retelling this story from new in honor of the portion of Ha'azinu, in honor of the eve of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. And Hashem should help that after almost 2,000 years of being scattered amongst the nations, and our name, we've been erased over and over and over again. Okay, so the most noble prizes are received by Jews. But that's not what we're looking about, and that's not what we're looking for. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about regaining our title, regaining B'ni B'cheri Yisrael. My son, Hashem says to us, my son, my firstborn, Israel, Yisrael, Boni Matem La Hashem Lekechem. We are children. We are Hashem's children, and there's not a situation. It's the total antithesis to a son of a king that the son isn't sitting at the table of the king. And that's what Golus is all about. We're not seated at the table of the king. We're seated at our tables, wherever it might be. One has a table, one has a larger table, but it's still a table in Golus. Okay, the Rebbe says we're seated at a table and we're in Geula. But as long as the Geula has not been revealed to our eyes of flesh and blood, so it's not Geula, it's not a complete Geula yet. And this is what Tshuva is all about. The first taf, the first letter of Tshuva starts with Tomim, Tihye im Hashem Elokecha, that we have to be sincere and we have to be complete. There has to be the wholeness. We have to be whole in front of Hashem. And how do we do it? We're doing as much as we can. Now it's Hashem's turn to go and to complete the circle and to bring us the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach on a good and revealed basis, with happiness and joy of the heart, and with peace and tranquility. And the main thing, it should be immediately now. Yichi Adonenu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech Ha'Moshiach Li'olam Voed. And we'd like to wish everyone a Gemar Chasima and Gemar Chasima Teva, Lashana Teva U'Mesuka, and Teichef U'Miyad Mamesh with the Geula Ashlema V'Amitis.